What's up, y'all? We're doing a test simulcast with the Achelli.com Jack Blood show that we do. This Bloodcast, obviously, over here. We're trying to get our guest, Scott Ritter, on the line right now. I probably shouldn't have advertised it first, but we're trying to get people over here to be with us. That's what you're supposed to do. So yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Get in the chat and say yes or no. I guess if you can't hear me, you won't know. It's working. All right. Hot. No, they're hearing us. So, and I didn't know with the headset if they were going to be able to. So, uh, we can't get Scott though right now. Okay. No, it is not. It's my fault, and it's a conspiracy for sure because I was advertising on the Facebooks, on the Zuckbook, on Meta that we were going to have Scott today, and a lot of people are very mad at him for his analysis on the Russia-NATO war. So can you hear? No, Mr. Ritter isn't on. Can you hear Chuck when Chuck's talking to me? Is he coming through? Yeah. Oh, they say no, they can't hear you. So maybe that's good. We'll see if they can hear Scott, and then I'll just bail on this if they can't. It's just me speaking. Okay, is what they're saying. They can't hear you. I don't know why that would be, Chuck, because I get calls on Skype. King Chuck. They're calling you King Chuck. I trumped you, man. At least I didn't call you Sleepy Chuck or Lying Chuck or whatever. I trumped you, man. I nicknamed you just like that. I'm running for president 2024. F it. That's how it's going on. I'll use the Trump model. I will belittle and name my victims and then eat them and their heads in front of everyone. No, but you are a king. You are the king of Ochelli.com. So. All right, shit. I'll tell you what, man. We're late coming back, so why don't we go ahead and roll with that? See if people can, if you guys can hear the production that we're going to play here in a second. Let me know if you can hear that. If you can't, there's a chance you probably won't hear Ritter either. So I could have patched him in on my side potentially. All right, it's a test. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. I mean, if they can hear me, we can still simulcast anyway. So I'll just keep it going. We'll start the show here in a minute or two. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and roll the production. And all right. So just so you know, you're going to hear. Let's see. How about we open you up with beer porn? Okay, cool. I like Vulture's technique going on the bait on that. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah. All right, we're deciding on what production to play here, folks. That's how we roll on the Jack Blood show. And then I'll maybe give out the number on this side too, Chuck, and see if we call people on this side and get them in, and maybe we'll have a volunteer and see if that goes out on your side. Okay? Why not? Just listen for the fade. And that's the fade. Welcome back. We're a little late for the second hour. I appreciate you guys listening. More production to promote the wonderful Ochelli.com network. Please support them over there. They got a bunch of great shows too. We're trying out
our people on YouTube know it, to YouTube/Deadline Live TV. We are trying out a simulcast to see if we can get guests that you guys can see them on YouTube. You can also see me and all the sins that I'm committing behind the scenes. Okay. Those who without sin throw the first stone. So we're trying to get Scott Ritter on the line right now. And I was just talking, for those of you tuning into the Ocelli Network version of our broadcast, that I had promoted UN Weapons Inspector Scott Ritter, and I probably shouldn't have done that because he is an enemy of the state right now for his, I think, extremely insightful conclusions and analysis regarding the war in Ukraine. And he's been taking a lot of heat for it. He's something he's used to. The guy's got giant cojones and is not afraid to tell the truth. And we need more people like that. So I had to talk to Scott here the other day, and he agreed to come on, though maybe there's a time mix up and maybe he's just being blocked somehow. So we're going to fetter through in the meantime. Keep me posted. If you guys are at Deadline Live TV, keep me posted on what you're hearing and what you're seeing. I know one thing that's kind of cool. Maybe it sounds a little better to you because I'm on a headset, and normally I just do this thing acoustically regarding the bloodcasts that I do over at YouTube about 4 or 5 days a week. So I don't know if this sounds better than usual. I like it, and it'd be cool if all of this worked the way it used to work back in the day. But you got to keep up with this stuff. It's constantly evolving and constantly changing to give you a better experience. Allegedly. So some of the things we were going to talk about with Scott, pretty salient, because if you're watching Western media coverage of Russia versus NATO, Ukraine, it's there are literally American boots on the ground. There's viral video of it, and not just Americans from somewhere in the Midwest, but they're putting down mines. They're fighting a hot war, in a ground war in Ukraine. So this is maybe why. And then there's certainly a lot of Europeans involved in this. From what Scott was saying the other day on Gray Zone, this has been a game changer. All the new money coming in, the way that they're recruiting soldiers because they were running out of people, the ultimate human resource in Ukraine to fight the Russians. They have gone deep into the well and found some expert mercenaries. Let's call them mercenaries. In The Prince, Machiavelli warned people not to use mercenaries, and there's a lot of reasons why, because generally their loyalties can be bought. You guys have heard of that book. You've heard of Machiavelli. You've heard of the book The Prince. Maybe not. I just hate to get lost in literature because we know that books don't exist anymore for the most part. So what we've been hearing on this end of it is that there have been some major victories, which is putting a lot of pressure on Russia. They've had to pull back. Scott explains it in a way that they kind of consolidated their forces, so they gave up a certain portion of some of the territory that they've already gotten in East Ukraine, which is kind of their main objective, is to create a buffer zone around Russia. And who could blame them? I don't know. I mean, we would do the same thing in this country, certainly, if we had Russian troops amassing on our border for whatever reason. And, or George Soros for that matter. No, that's right. He's on our side. He's fighting for America. He's like Homelander in The Boys. Great show. But so that's what we're getting on this side. I kind of wanted to clarify that, but having watched an interview Scott did the other day on Gray Zone, which is pretty awesome, not as good as this show certainly, but not bad. Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate, if you guys watch these. They're pretty good on foreign policy. They're pretty good at debunking some of the conspiracies that are out there. They were hot on Russiagate in the very beginning. They are uber liberal, so you understand that there are people of that persuasion that are on your side if you happen to consider yourself more of a right winger. I mean, I don't care. Please remember those are both wings of the same bird. So what had happened, though, was that it wasn't going well for Ukraine. They were losing a lot of people. They went in and they recruited from a pool of kind of School of the Americas slash trainers who go in to third world or foreign countries, train their military, and fight alongside of them. So they're experts in not only training some of the, I guess, neophyte fighters who might be on the ground in Ukraine, but they're also actually boots on the ground themselves. Just call them, I mean, what they are. They're special ops and mercenaries with extreme training on multiple levels. These guys exist. They are fighting machines. And so there has been some ground lost by Russia in Ukraine. They are consolidating around some of the areas in Donbass and Crimea, et cetera, that they set out to hold the entire time. Now, the objectives, of course, were to get these territories back. That's what Russia was doing. Putin, if you want to make him king. That's one of the objectives. It's a 3-tiered objective. The other two are to denazify Ukraine, which isn't going well and doesn't look to be a prospect of accomplishment for the end game. And of course, to demilitarize Ukraine, which is have the opposite effect. They are more militarized than ever before. So, Scott, we were going to have him explain that, but I think I kind of just did it. The weather is changing, and so that is affecting war fighting in the region. Now, on the other side of things, Putin has called to escalate. Now that they've brought in these expert fighters, brought in billions of dollars, all of this NATO and American and military industrial complex weaponry. They couldn't be happier. Profits are up. Is your 401k invested into Raytheon or Boeing or any of the usual suspects? Vought Industries? Okay. Because you'll do well on that. Now, you're making money by killing people, but if you can live with that, I'm okay with it. It's none of my business. I put your money where your mouth is. I mean, wherever you should put it. So there has been a backlash, a call for mobilization in Russia. This is to exact and call up using reserves and other military types in Russia. Remember, Russia's got an obligatory, compulsory military. It's kind of like Norway and a bunch of Israel. You have to, when you turn 18, you got to go spend a year or two in the military. As far as I know, that's how I know how it works. I don't know if things have changed, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works in Russia too. All young men are trained in the military, and that's why when you see a Russian in America, like, probably don't give them a bunch of shit because they are going to F you up. And I've had this happen as a bouncer. I've had to deal with a lot of crazy Russians, and it's no picnic. Okay, it's not like the drunk guy in your city who has a few too many beers watching the game and gets a little upset at the bar, and you grab him by the scruff of the neck and kick him in the butt, and that's it. And then threaten next time to take him down the back way if he doesn't settle down. These guys are ready to go, and they have hair triggers. So, but it has caused, allegedly, again, because I'm only getting news from certain sources. I think Scott would tell you the same thing. He doesn't have a hotline into the Kremlin or to Zelensky or to NATO. So we're just trying to put this together from the information that we're getting. One of those things is there is allegedly, a backlash in Russia. There have been some protests. people fleeing. Apparently, you don't need a visa to go to Serbia. So a lot of people just getting the F out of Russia before they are recruited to go be cannon fodder. Remember what Kissinger said: military men are dumb, stupid animals and cannon fodder for foreign policy. I don't think he's the only one that thought that. I believe that most emperors believe that as well. Let's put Putin into that class. But they're defending their territory. And do you believe in Mother Russia? You should fight. You should fight. You should fight like dog. But a lot of people not wanting any part of that and trying. But I'm seeing the pictures. They could be completely fake and propaganda of people fleeing Russia to not have to be called up to go fight in Ukraine against NATO. I mean, Ukrainians. Ukrainian freedom. They don't want to go fight the Nazis. And there's no Nazis. This is how you have to do radio these days. This is how you have to do a podcast. That you constantly have to. You just constantly have to explain yourself and put disclaimers on everything. Also, there are a number of protests in Mother Russia, and that's leading to a crackdown and some cracked heads here and there. They will not stand for... See, that's the difference between Russia and America. America, you can protest all you want and about anything you want. It's in the Constitution. You could go redress your grievances at the Capitol, for instance, and nothing bad will happen. Oh, that's right. You can't. You're not really allowed, and then there's more laws and reasons for you not to be able to. One of those is you couldn't cover your face. You weren't allowed to cover your face at a protest in America. And then came COVID and Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all the rest. And they just kind of went, we're all right with that unless we don't like what you're saying and you cover your face, because there is a law. You're not allowed to cover your face at a protest. So, no, we're hypocrites. We really don't like protests here too much. And if you're protesting something, I don't know, like early Tea Party, Occupy, or even OCUT. That was my idea. They'll break heads real quick. You'll see things change very quickly. So while we're pointing the finger at Vlad in Russia, for cracking down on protests, I mean, we kind of need to not be hypocrites. Your freedom is an illusion. And sometimes illusions can work out for people. I think in Russia, they don't have those kind of illusions, but yet that kind of makes them badass, because there are protesters for the mobilization, the massive new influx of new troops that are going to be going in and holding territory in Ukraine, which is going to lead to the Russian version of martial law. That's kind of where that's going. Yeah, I was just looking to see if we get Scott, but it looks like I'm on my own. Who needs an expert like Scott Ritter, UN weapons inspector and military historical strategist, who knows this whole thing and the names of everything backwards and forwards, when you have me? It's so that's all happening. Zelensky has come out and said, so there's some peace plans on the table. So what I've been predicting is that this whole thing, there'll be some kind of peace plan put together that will be agreed upon at some point, which will, unfortunately for Ukrainians, have to concede some territory to Russia. These are people who do not consider themselves Ukrainian, who consider themselves Russia, who speak Russian, which was, by the way, nearly outlawed in Ukraine. Ukraine goes after their political opponents. I mean, let's not go into the Nazis and the sex trafficking and all the other problems. Deals with Hunter and whatnot. Let's just kind of remember that's part of all of this at some point, right? Which is why a lot of people kind of see Vlad as a good guy in this, because and in what he did in Syria, I thought was whether it was ethical or not was certainly useful. There's history we have to just put into all of this. So that's what I was predicting happening. Zelensky has come out and said that the Russians don't want peace, and what he means is, and even Erdogan, that the emperor of Turkey and the new Ottoman Empire, said he's kind of on the sidelines on this, but Turkey is a NATO member, that they're not going to vote for anything on the level of conceded territory for a peace agreement. That anyone in NATO is like a no bueno on that stuff. No way. Which makes this really hard. So I'm thinking that there are some riots in Russia. They're not riots, I don't know, protests or whatever. I'm thinking the protests in the winter, when that 700% increase in your energy costs that really starts kicking in, and what's going to be most likely a very cold winter in Europe, people might have a little change of opinion, might put some ground up pressure on those in charge. And it's very likely that at that point of peace, and I think that's one of the things that Putin is holding out for. The other thing is that Putin wants a referendum vote, basically. I guess we call it democracy over here in this part of the world, that people can vote to be Russian. But again, these are people who have been attacked, tortured, jailed, repressed, their rights taken away from them just because they speak Russian and consider themselves Russian and have a political opinion in general. So I'm sure people will call that vote fixed. I'm pretty sure it will go with Russia. And that's also upsetting people in a big, big way. Biden came out and said, we are not threatening Russia. We've never threatened Russia in any way, which, again, he might believe. If you believe a lie, is it true? That's some George Costanza philosophy. It's not a lie if you believe it. And potentially Biden does believe that the pandemic is over and that we've never threatened Russia in any way. And NATO certainly was never used as a hammer to pen in and threaten Russia. And we haven't sanctioned them, and we haven't done anything. We haven't fought them in proxy wars in other areas because we're busy kind of dealing with China, who's the up and comer. That's who we're fighting in Africa and in Central America generally. It's not Russia anymore. It's China. Look into that, because they've decided they'll take the resources and they'll do it any way they have to, and they're much more vicious. By the way, I'm not being xenophobic. They're pretty vicious, man. They don't abide by any kind of rules whatsoever. So what has happened is that Europe and the United States have become slightly unhinged. Maybe the crazies in the basement, as they used to call them, aka neocons, etc., who right now are prosecuting this proxy war to bleed Russia, to bring them to their knees, to put them in their place, to make America great again. I mean, to make it numero uno worldwide. And that's not the United States. If you didn't know, it's their owners. They own you. So all of that, it's kind of hard. So Putin came out, and I'm not going to play it because it's in Russian. He speaks exclusively Russian to the people. They have been threatened. I think there are people within our government who think that they could win a nuclear war versus Russia. And Putin basically said he's calling their bluff. They're ready to defend the motherland. They will use nukes and they will do whatever it takes to defend themselves. This is very dangerous territory, which another traitor, un-American traitor, has talked about extensively for quite a while in Tulsi Gabbard. We don't want this to get to the point of nuclear war, do we? I mean, what are our leaders doing? What is going on? Because when we have Putin coming out and threatening to use nukes, which he quite certainly did or alluded to, that's a problem. I'm glad we're all enjoying it. Quick break here. We'll come right back. And thank you guys for joining us here on our live stream on YouTube. It's the Jack Blood Show.
All right, he's just not showing up on the Skype.
Yeah, all right.
So he must have a long time or something.
Yeah, so we're hearing Scott Ritter is not joining us today. I guess he'll owe me one. He's usually super good at showing up too. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they've arrested him or or he's blocked or.
You never know. I've only ever had one guest arrested just before.
Oh, I wrote 7 p.m. Eastern, so he is Eastern. So I didn't even do it Pacific. There's really no reason he wouldn't make it. I don't know anymore, man. It's like every guest you book, unless it's a Republican, you just know they're not showing up. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? I know. Okay, cool. We'll.
Me or the production on that side, so apparently your YouTube is not being piped into the.
Yeah, but.
Skype.
Yeah, but if I have, okay, so the number here is 206-809-0469. Let's see if you can hear them on your side and broadcast it. Okay, even though it will leave a hole if it doesn't work, we'll get out of it real quick, Chuck. So 206-809-0469. I'm already on with you, so maybe I can't get a call while I'm on with you. I should be able to sync that up. Yeah, I just add them into a conversation, you know.
Should be all right if you just add them.
Yeah, in a